Hi everyone, this is my new development called Modified. It is a module intended to make your drum patterns more spicy. We have 4 channels here on the right where we can feed in trigger patterns, and then over here we have for each channel a couple of parameters that allow us to vary these patterns and make them evolving over time, or creating fills and breaks and other stuff. So we get the thing going by sending an external clock signal, and I will start with patching in the most simple 4 to the floor beat you can think of, and I will demonstrate how much we can make out of it. I have already put in one trigger sequence here to channel 1, which looks pretty much like a bass drum pattern. And you can see this signal is just passed to the output of channel 1, which we can connect to a kick drum. Then we can add another signal that we may use for a snare. And then maybe something like a tom. Still very simple. And of course we finally need heads. So if all parameters here are set to 0, then the input triggers are just passed to the outputs. And in addition to the parameters that we can control for every channel individually, here on the right we have some global parameters that control overall how these parameters here on the left are affecting our beat. So let's quickly go through the parameters. The colorful knobs allow you to either add additional pulses or remove pulses from your input sequences, depending on whether you turn the knob to the left side or to the right. And the changes you're hearing are based on random sequences for each channel running in the background, and at any time, if we are not happy with this particular random sequence, we can make a reseed for each channel by pressing the buttons just below. Then in the second row we have a parameter that can apply changes to the random sequences and hence to the pulses that we have just added. If we turn this knob to the left, we get temporal variations of these pulses. They essentially get shuffled around from time to time, and the further you move the knob, the more pulses are affected. But as soon as you put the knob back to center position, you also get back your original repetitive beat. And when you move the knob to the right, you also get changes to your random pulses, but this time these changes are permanent. So when you set it back to 0 again, now your sequence keeps the last modifications that you have applied. Then with the next row we can rotate our sequences, including the triggers that are fed in here externally. And we can also change the length of each sequence to enable polyrhythms. And then down here, for each channel, we can create fills. Here in the global section we can control the frequency of how often a fill should be played. So we can set this to 4, for example, which means that the fill is played every 4 bars. And the knobs here accordingly control the density and the variation of the fills, just as the knobs here at the top do for the regular patterns. So the left half of the variation knobs create temporal variations, and the right half permanent variations. And when the fill is played, you get an indication here by this yellow LED. We can also make a reseed of the random sequences controlling the fills by making a long press on the seed buttons, or we can make use of the right side of our variations knob, which creates permanent modifications to the random sequences anyway. Then we have a switch here that controls whether we like to include or exclude the external triggers into our fills. So when set to off, only the internally generated pulses are being played during the fill, making the fill more independent of the other patterns. And for the fill's frequency, we also have the possibility to set it to 1 bar, so that every bar a fill is played, which means that we're essentially changing entirely to the fill patterns. Then we can set it to every second bar, which means that we expand our external 16-step sequence to a 32-step sequence. And finally, we can also set it to 3 bars and 5 bars, which are odd numbers, to make sure that we also have the possibility to break with our regular structures. At the top here we have a knob that controls the global density. So whatever is set here for the densities of each channel, the global fill will increase or decrease these relative to what these local densities are set. And when it is turned fully to the left, it will mute all trigger sequences. And this knob also has a bipolar CV input down here, enabling you to control the overall density also with external gear. Speaking of global parameters, on top of all this, we have yet another instance of fills available, which is called a global fill, as it overrides whatever local pattern on the left is played at the moment. So we have an own density knob for these global fills, which sets the density relative to the density parameters set here, either decreasing or increasing them. And it also inherits all the variation parameters here. However, for the global fills, every channel still has its own independent random sequence, so even when we set the global fill density to center position, which means that now all parameters are the same as for the local fills, we still get different results for the global fills. Of course, the global fills also have their dedicated frequency knob over here, so they can be played every 4 bars, 8 bars, 12 and 16 bars. And in particular, when you set it to the longer frequencies, you may lose track about the structure of your beat. So therefore I added another LED here, which is blinking just 1 bar before a global fill is about to be played, just as a simple reminder, enabling you to prepare other things. And likewise for the global density, when setting the global fill density all the way to the left, all output patterns are muted. So for example, you can use this when you want to play a transition part without any drums. Then you can set this fully down. All drums are muted during the fill, but they kick in again just in time at the beginning of the next bar without using your hands to control anything. Same as for the local fills, we have a switch to exclude the external triggers just from the global fill to make the global fill more distinct from your regular beat. The global density parameter, by the way, also affects the global fills, of course, making your beat more or less dense at any time. Then down here we have an output for accents with a knob that controls how many triggers of a 16-step sequence should be played as accents. So this is a gate output that goes high when an accent is played. If we don't like the random sequence determining the accents, we can make a reset with this button below. So for example, we can use this output to control the traditional VCA, or in my patch here I use it to control the decay of the kick, like this. Or we can trigger an additional drum voice like an open hi-hat. And then use something else for the kick decay. And then we have up here two more global parameters that are my favorite features. These are the parameters for weight and rhythm. The weight determines whether the random variations applied as the beat modification here are more happening during the first half of a bar or during the second half of a bar. So now we have set it to the left, which now forces the random variations to appear early in the rhythm, while leaving the later half unmodulated and therefore rather close to the original external patterns. And now we have set it to the right, letting the variations occur late in the beat. And when set to center, all variations are equally distributed. There is one exception to this parameter. It is not applied to the global fills. Global fills are always equally distributed, as I find this musically more useful. The second parameter here is the rhythm parameter, and this determines whether the random variations favor more the odd steps or the even steps. So when set to the left, we get rather straight rhythms, and when set to the right, we get more sophisticated rhythms with a stronger syncopation. And maybe now it's the right time to mention that the clock input here also accepts swing. So if I add swing to the external clock, as I'm doing now, it's getting even nicer. Then here we have a switch that offers two modes of how temporal variations to our random sequences are being applied. So whenever a variation knob is on the left side, in the shuffle mode, steps in the random variations are being shuffled around. So they change places. And this implies a tendency of the overall number of active pulses be roughly maintained during the variations. However, when set to the flip mode, then our variations are more experimental, because this means that any step in our sequence or in our sequences can be flipped from either on to off or from off to on, including the steps of our external sequences. And the more you turn the knob to the left, the more steps are being flipped. So this can lead to much stronger deviations from your basic rhythm, whereas the shuffle mode is more conservative, I would say, at least compared to the flip mode. So maybe let's trigger something else with one of our outputs. For example, a more melodic element. And then another global parameter is the freeze switch here. This enables you to stop accounting for any further changes in the external inputs, just as if you would freeze the current input can even unplug the cables, and still the triggers you had before are fully incorporated in your beat. This allows you, for example, to use the external triggers for something else, or you can prepare a different external beat here. For example, I'm now changing these triggers to a different beat, and then when everything is ready, you can decide with the switch when these new patterns are activated. And this feature is also particularly interesting when we load presets. We do have in total 6 preset slots available to fully store and recall our rhythms. We select the preset slot with this knob here and then make a long press on the save button. When released, we get a feedback by the 3 LEDs that everything has been properly saved. When we like to load a preset, we just make a short press on the button. Now coming back to the freeze switch, in our presets also the external trigger patterns are being saved. So when we set the freeze switch down and load a preset, the external patterns saved in the preset will also be loaded and played, because we disabled with the switch the input checks here. And as soon as we set the switch back to its upper position, the external triggers are being read in, and the patterns we have loaded are overwritten. Yet all parameters from the preset are still there, now being applied to the current external patterns. So this also means when you load a preset with the freeze switch up, you in fact only load the parameters from your preset. When the switch is down, you load both the parameters and the saved external patterns. So for example, what I like a lot is you could save a preset without having any external pattern patched in. I've done this for preset 3, for example. So then of course this empty external patterns become part of the preset. And when you now load this preset with the freeze switch being down, you of course also load the empty external sequences and therefore only play the internally generated pulses of your preset. And then later on, with the freeze switch, you can kick in the external beat that is currently fed in at the side. Anyway, you can very well use this module also to play exclusively with the internally generated triggers, so without feeding in any external patterns. Here the rotation knobs are particularly useful as they allow you to set a kick drum to step 1, even though we can't really address individual steps manually, or set a snare to step 5 or similar. We also have a trigger input to load presets, and just as for my other module, the strength of these triggers is also evaluated, enabling you to select specific presets with different voltages. An input trigger between 1 and 3 volt will always load the preset that is currently selected by the preset knob, and for every additional voltage in your input triggers, the different presets are being selected. So the trigger between 3 and 4 volt will load preset 1, and the trigger exceeding 8 volt will load preset 6. And then imagine you have loaded a preset, and then of course the actual positions of the knobs are maybe not consistent with the values you have stored in the preset. So there are 2 modes how changes in the knobs and switches can affect the parameters when a preset has been loaded. So in the jump mode, the parameters just jump to the current knob value as soon as the knob is moved. But we can change this to the pickup mode by holding the accent seed button and pressing the first seed button up here. And then in this mode we first have to catch the value of the parameter as it has been saved in the preset. As long as there is a mismatch, you get an indication by the 3 LEDs that the parameter you are intended to change is currently ignored. Now I have hit the saved value and only now I am able to change the parameter. Then the pulses you can add to your rhythm with the density knobs are set to a maximum of 8 additional pulses. So if you want to add even more, for example for a really tight hi-hat pattern, you can change the resolution to increase the maximum to 16 steps. Just hold the accent seed button and press the second seed button here to toggle between the two resolutions. And the third button allows you to manually update all parameters according to their current positions. So if you have loaded a preset and the parameters are now inconsistent with the knob positions, you can break out of your preset with this button combination and just get back to the manual mode. And the last seed button is a manual activation of the global fill. So just hold the accent seed button, and as long as you also hold the last seed button here, the global fill is being played. Finally, there's no special reset button or check available. However, I put in an automatic reset, which means that if we stop the external clock, 2 seconds later, all sequences are being reset to step 1. Okay, so the individual features here are very easy to understand, very hands-on, very performative, I believe, and still they are powerful enough to generate complex rhythms out of even the simplest, most static beat you feed in here. So I think it's great fun to use it. Thanks for watching.